Thank you, Dennis. All right. All right, let's bring up on the stage the director of Patient, Lori Felker, and the director of Bob's Funeral, Jack Dunphy. Come on up.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, everybody, yeah. I'll start with you, Lori, so Jack, you can collect your thoughts. Patient is a fascinating viewing experience because it pulls the rug out from the viewer twofold. You know, at first I thought I was watching a kind of Frederick Wiseman type observational documentary about, you know, bedside manner. And then we realize it's not that, it's a class. But then we see in the credits, and then there's a little giveaway towards the end in the editing that we realize, no, everybody in this is an actor. And it's like, it's fascinating. And I was wondering, like, when you describe this movie to people, I know some people like to lock films in a genre or something like that, and people ask me, like, was Patient real? Is it a documentary? I'm like, well, I don't know what it was, but it certainly felt like a documentary. So how do you usually describe this movie to people?
I struggled with it for a while, and there were a whole bunch of words that were floating around, and thank you for the Frederick Wiseman comment. The first person who saw a 45-minute rough cut said it looked like Frederick Wiseman to them, and I was like, yes! I call it a fiction-reality hybrid because, you know, the standardized patients who are patients are doing their regular job. They are improvising off of like a 2-page case, but I wrote the case. So that's a little bit of fiction there. I'm not a medical expert, but I did do research. And then we added the fictional thin line of the first pair that you see, the one with the blonde hair and the red-headed student doctor. And that kind of like fictionalizes a bit more by creating this thread of the day. But then all of the cases are really performed. And I shot them they got 20 minutes and they improvised. And I wanted to use medical students. I wanted it to be even more like an observational situation, but I wasn't allowed to for obvious reasons, because I would probably ruin their lives somehow. And so I was just like, wait, who knows this job of sitting in a room with a young, nervous doctor who doesn't know how to be a doctor yet, except for the standardized patients who sit in there with them all the time. And they really act as teachers with them all the time. And so I asked the standardized patients, I said, do any of you think you could play the med students? And they were like, oh yeah. They were like so excited to be like, oh, there's this one nervous thing that I see all the time, or like one time they do get complimented on their acting, like stuff like that. Like that improv from the standardized patient came from their experience of what real med students have said.
Okay, so that like answers so many of my follow-up questions. Yeah, because were there alternate versions of scenes that you did? Like, was there a lot of stuff on the editing floor of this movie?
Only that. So I didn't want to do more than one take of any of the exams because I really did want to preserve the your 20 minutes starts now, like the pressure of that reality because they all know how to live in that world. And so you saw snippets from 8 different 20-minute exams in which I mixed the people around. And so I have 8 times 20? Anybody? 160 minutes? I have actually 160 minutes of those exams. And so this is a 19-minute film. So that's what's on the cutting room floor, but there weren't different options of the way they greeted each other or first said I had a stomach ache. It was really like, I was really interested in what they could do over time as opposed to how they could do it the best. There is no best.
Yeah. And then when it came to the editing of it, were you toying around with like when to reveal that these are not real, that this is a class? Was there?
Yes.
What was that process
like? There's like feathers right there, and it's
there's
kind of
feathers,
gross.
There's
and weird.
bobby pins
I thought it was
here.
a rat.
Like I don't know what's going
anyway,
on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Distracted. He's got the feather. Yeah, I just did an edit out of my gut. Like the moments I thought that said a lot but that said even just like the Ne Meow, who's like the doctor with the dark hair, who's like kind of nervous and young, and he like plays with the sheet a bit much. Like moments like that were really important to me, like little fumbles and goofy slapstick comedy sort of, and the way they naturally made jokes to make themselves feel more comfortable. So I was just looking for all those really good moments. But when I knew I kind of had, that I was right, that I was making the right choices when I first showed a friend the cut, and it was just, when she does she says, oh yeah, it's right down here, and then you cut to Jim's hairy hand. Like it's like one of the first edits outside of the room. In the beginning, and they laughed so hard, and they were like, I love that hairy hand, and I was like, okay, good. And I loved that they pointed out that it was comedic, because I also wanted to, it's not that funny in the room, but I knew I could add humor through the cutting. So that was like, yeah.
And go back and talk a little bit about the research. Were you able to like ever sit in on like bedside manner classes and observe it?
I observed at the University of Illinois Chicago, the Wisconsin Medical Center, and this is UW-Madison, because I'm working on a feature in which the main character is a standardized patient. And so I was observing, once the pandemic would subside enough to let me in, I observed at these different centers, and particularly here, I just fell in love with these actors, and we just got along really well, and I had a lot of access. But at each one, I like put headphones on and sat at that split screen monitor, and you just click around and you can like listen to one and watch another, go full screen, watch all four at once, listen to all four at once. And I was like, yes, because I'm like I like experimental film, and so I was like, the chaos of this medical sterilization. It's not sterile. No one was being sterilized. This sterile medical situation was exciting to me. Yeah.
Last weekend, you were here for the Cinema Femme Festival with an older film of yours. I'm coming off the top of my head with this question, so I don't. What was the name of the film again?
Oh, it's called Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. I'm being spontaneous right now with this question. The theme of that short film block was like bodies, right?
Body, yeah.
Yeah, and is that, and they're originally going to play patients, but then things happen, and we got
Stole
patient
it,
instead.
yeah.
We stole it. All right, they stole it. Whatever. We're all good friends. It's all good. But I'm wondering, like, is that a common theme that runs through your work, like physicality, bodies, or I don't know.
I think it has become, I didn't know that or do it intentionally at first. Like Spontaneous is the story of, the true story, it's an autobiographical piece about how I had a miscarriage at a film festival. That's when I met Jack, 2016. He was at Sundance and I was at Slam Dance, and we met at a party. Yeah. And I think we had mutual friends. And I was miscarrying while we were talking,
oh my God.
and people didn't know, because it takes a little while. It's not like an instant. And so like, that was just me just trying to tell my story, and I had to just process and think about all the ways that the body is really frickin' weird, and the inside and the outside. So that, I think that's more of like where my brain is like the layers. Mm-hmm. So like what you can see about my body right now, but you guys don't know if I have IBS. I might, like something dark might be happening inside. And then how I might feel about that, and then what I remember about that, and like just all of that simultaneity. That's kind of the way I think about the body, which definitely played into patient.
Okay. Now, Jack, speaking of personal experiences, what I wanted to first say to the audience here is that Jack's family is here, and this was their first time seeing the film. And I'm dying to know what was their response, if you got a response from them that you could tell us about.
I ran up here as soon as possible. I don't know, we might have to ask, does the spokesman want to say something? What do you guys think?
I think it was a good move to run up there as fast.
That's my mom, who's a great filmmaker, Lori Dunphy. We saw the snippet from her movie starring my dad. I have a feeling this feather and these bobby pins are from the Vera Drew screening. Is that possible?
It could be, yeah.
Just wanted to slow it down there for no reason.
Did you make them late today?
No, we took separate cars.
Okay, good. All right.
I made myself late. I am so nervous right now.
I'm
so
not
nervous.
gonna, I'm not, you know, I've seen this movie many times, so when I saw them in the wandering around the lobby, I was like, I can't believe they're flesh and blood here, because I feel like I know them because this is such a revealing movie. And I've seen your work before. We had another movie of yours here called Serenity, and that was entirely animated in much the same style as this, and that was all about when you lost your virginity, and that was really like funny and revealing and uncomfortably truthful. Are you mainly drawn to that? It's like, does that like get you going more than anything else, being just revealing and?
No, I mean, it's just a complete compulsion. It's more like I found a sort of formula or that works for me, and so it's just this thing that I do and don't think about. I mean, I would love to just be making live-action narrative films and leave all this personal documentary crap behind, but it's something I can do, and I feel compelled to continue doing it because I think it's where currently my talents are best served.
Well, I mean, it seems like with something like this, it seems like you've been like sort of carrying around some family drama and family legacy, whatever you want to call it, for a long time. And I'm just wondering, like, how and when did you come to the decision that it was time to turn this into something, like make this movie?
Oh. Well, I try to make something for Sundance every year. It's just a deadline that I need, or I'll get nothing done. And I've been working on basically a feature film for 8 years. That's like the feature version of Bob, kind of. So I have all that footage and a lot of the animation for that, but it's changed so much that I thought maybe I'll just take some of this material from the wreckage of that feature film, which is just the bane of my existence, and put something together for Sundance. So it was made in like a month and a half, but also 8 years at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and how would you sort of characterize the catharsis of making this film? I mean, what do you ultimately feel like you got out of your system by making it? At the risk of being too personal,
Please,
I don't know if
please.
I could be.
I shouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I know.
And yet I do.
So, okay.
What I get off my chest?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I was just happy to get some of that material out into the world because I've been sitting on it for so long. Some of just that animation and that footage. But in terms of working through stuff, I feel like I got a little closer to my dad. I feel like I actually felt compassion for the Freeman side of the family, thinking about Bob being kind of like abusive. Like, I don't have a relationship with those people. I haven't talked to them since my dad's funeral, but I don't know, just sort of digging into that story, I'm like, oh yeah, these people are kind of weird, but you know, everyone makes their kids, turn out as a result of their upbringing, and Bob, I'm sure, I think had a bad alcoholic dad. I just found out, so it's a cycle, and I know that there's like zero empathy you can extract from Bob's story, but even him, it goes back. So it's just sort of thinking about cycles and stuff. I did just get a threatening message from someone on the Freeman camp yesterday, so the shitstorm has begun.
Did they see the movie?
No, I don't know. I think someone read something or heard about it, so I don't even know how I'm gonna. If I fuck up the inheritance for everyone, like everyone loses their shares, which I think might happen, I'll feel even more guilty than I do on a daily basis. Just for being alive. Like I said, I've seen this movie many times, and watching it in the theater just now was probably the most emotional, I've felt watching it. I definitely can relate to the father dying, and he was my dad died a year and a half ago he was sorry.
a writer, and so the movie really touched me, and but I can't imagine if I made something like this and showing it to my family. But I'm wondering, like, you've lived with this movie for a long time. Do you feel like it was building up to today in any way?
Yeah, kind of. And then it's like, anticlimactic. I don't know what they'll think, or I'm sure they'll have problems with some of the drawings, the caricatures, but I think you look great. I know you do. So, yeah, I guess in a sense, you always wonder what they'll think and if they'll be disappointed or say, oh, you shouldn't have talked about that or whatever. But I love my family. I just want to give a shout out. They're the best. And they made this happen. They've kept me alive. They're so great. And I also want to give a shout out to one of my composers, Chris Bailoni of the band Grapetooth, who did that cool synthy music in it. He's in the audience. And I'm sure he doesn't want me to do this, but my other composer did all the great acoustic and string music, Seth Kaplan, who's worked with me a lot. Yeah, he's awesome. I'll move on from that quickly because I don't know if he likes to talk about this too much. And my friend Charlie. Thanks for coming, Charlie.
All right, I guess we'll end there. We're not going to take questions from the audience, but will you guys be in the lounge or hang out in the lounge for some pictures and talk to people? Okay.
Sure.
Can I just say I love Jack's mom too now, and I support all Lori's who are filmmakers.
Thank you.
All right, Lori, Jack, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.